Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 100 based on novel. With the rapid printing of the formula between Xiao Yang's hands, Tianying only saw that there was an ancient rune slowly emerging between Xiao Yang's eyebrows. With an ancient breath slowly spreading from the family pattern, Xiao Yang's strength soared to the level of 6 stars and half emperors. Family pattern now. With a low drink, Xiao Yang gained his own strength with the help of pills and family patterns in his body. In this short moment, he returned to the peak again, although it won't last long. What secret method did he use? How could he improve the strength of the whole star? At this moment, even Xiong, who has always looked calm, couldn't help but make a sound in surprise at Xiao Yang, but he has never seen what secret method can be so powerful. Well, if it is a high-level secret method, it can really achieve this degree. However, the boy obviously doesn't have that kind of thing in his hands. Moreover, the rune in the center of his eyebrows doesn't seem to be condensed by ordinary secret methods. From the smell, it should be something owned by some ancient and old forces. The Sky Eagle's face was dignified and said, "If Xiao Yang is really a child of an ancient force, his identity is somewhat unusual. At a young age, he has the strength of half-emperor level. It's hard to imagine how powerful the forces behind him should be. I'm afraid even the strong fighting emperor is only the middle and lower reaches of the forces." Ancient forces, do you mean that this boy's identity is unusual? The bear just frowned. If this is true, if they kill Xiao Yang today, I'm afraid they will be hit by a storm in the Shaolin Mountains soon. An ancient force in a real sense, its inside information is not something they can easily afford. Even the strong fighting emperor, in front of that force, also exists like a mole ant. What should I do? I can't kill him again. It's hard not to achieve it. Do I really want him to go in? The hinterland of Shaolin Mountain Range, but no one can step in. If something happens after he goes in, you and I can't afford the consequences. Bear just stopped his body, looked solemnly at the eagle, and said in a dignified tone, "I naturally know this. Don't worry. The rules can't be changed. No matter what, we can't let him in. Just drive him out. If he doesn't give up, it's no wonder that we can." Tianying's eyes narrowed and stared at Xiao Yang until the good film was engraved, then he said in a deep voice. The Sky Eagle's wrist shook fiercely, and the invisible long sword immediately differentiated in the void. In the twinkling of an eye, dozens of invisible sharp swords condensed in the void in front of the Sky Eagle. On the other side, Xiong also shook his hands fiercely. The rock bear claws burst and turned into a huge stone axe, which was held in the palm of his hand again. Seeing this, Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed slightly. With his white palm, he grasped the Shen heavy ruler on one side. With his eyes raised, a strong breath also spread from his body. The field of inflammation, open. With a loud drink, a brilliant fire swept from the soles of Xiao Yang's feet in all directions, including the whole battle circle. The strange fire swept through, and the terrible high temperature immediately enveloped several people present. Under this terrible temperature, the void became distorted, and the three people's breathing became slightly heavy unconsciously. Hey, good boy, with the help of the power of different fire, his field is far superior to other people of the same level. I haven't released the old bear for a long time. Let's try it today. The field of wind. Rock field. With the two thunderous shouts coming out, the feet of Tianying and Xiong also spread out two different field breath at this moment, and they collided fiercely with each other towards Xiao Yang's burning field. Bang! At the moment when the fields collided, a violent bang spread across the sky. As a means of the semi-imperial strong, the strength of the field naturally represents the strength of the semi-imperial strong. At the moment, in the field collision between Xiao Yang and Tianying Xiong, it can be seen at a glance that Xiao Yang's own strength is weaker than that of the two in front of him, and the other party works together. Therefore, the Tianying side almost destroys Xiao Yang's field of inflammation in a few moments. The field was broken, but the expression on Xiao Yang's face had not changed. When Xiao Yang rushed to Xiao Yang in those two different fields, Xiao Yang turned his wrist, Shen Chongkai held his backhand in the palm of his hand, and the other palm burst with a strange fire, which scratched hard from the dark surface of the heavy ruler. At the moment when the heavy ruler was wrapped by the fire, Xiao Yang waved his big hand fiercely and the huge ruler swept out. When the terrible ruler mount swept across the sky, he carried a powerful force to destroy the oncoming field in an instant, and then continued to blast away at the eagle. 100 swords to wear. Mountains and rivers split the land. As the roar fell, dozens of long swords immediately attacked Xiao Yang under the control of Tianying, and Xionggang also waved his huge stone axe and chopped it at Xiao Yang. In the next moment, an earthy yellow fighting spirit shot out to meet the storm. With an extremely terrible momentum, it had collided with Xiao Yang's ruler and Mang in a twinkling of an eye. With 1 against 2, Xiao Yang is not an opponent after all. In the face of the terrible fighting skills of the 2 9-star and half-emperors, Xiao Yang's Kai Mang only supported a short time, and was forcibly broken by 2 powerful fighting skills. When the foot Mang was broken, Xiao Yang couldn't help but utter a dull hum, but the look on his face remained the same. On the contrary, there was a sense of banter in the depths of Xiao Yang's eyes. Holding a heavy ruler in his hand, Xiao Yang waved his arms, and the magnificent ruler horns kept shooting out from the huge ruler, bringing a terrible storm. In the blink of an eye, they broke their fighting skills just now, and blasted them away at the oncoming eagle. After this, Xiao Yang's face became pale again and took 2 imperial pills again. Xiao Yang suddenly turned around and quickly flew away towards the depths of the mountains. Boom! Breaking Xiao Yang's feet, a cloud-like energy storm suddenly swept the world. Tianying and Tianying had no choice but to lose their goal in a short time. When they rushed out of the cloud, Xiao Yang's figure had appeared at the end of their sight. "Good boy, I still want to go in. See where you run." With a low cry, the eagle turned into a body. The wings shook, and the wind swept the clouds. In a twinkling of an eye, the eagle had appeared on the edge of the distant sky and chased Xiao Yang. Later, the bear just looked at the direction the eagle was chasing and ignored it. Instead, he looked at the North King who was fighting fiercely with the burning lion at the moment. When the eagle left, the burning lion and Xionggang focused on the North King. At this time, no one noticed. In the dark mountains and forests below, another figure wrapped in black robes was flying in another direction at top speed. When the sunlight between the gaps in the shade of the trees fell and shone on the young face of the man in black, his face was undoubtedly Xiao Yang. As for the man just chased by Tianying, he is naturally the embodiment of Xiao Yang. Bang! When he tore up Xiao Yang in front of him, Tianying couldn't help but be surprised. Then the next moment, he saw that Xiao Yang's body turned into a light spot and gradually disappeared into the void. Then Tianying's heart quickly responded. Xiao Yang in front of him was not a body at all, but an incarnation. This good boy, he put us all together. His not here. Now his not good. Thinking that Xiao Yang might be approaching the depths of the Shilin Mountains, Tianying suddenly opened his eyes and was shocked. Then he suddenly looked up and gave an earth-shaking roar. At the same time, Yangsha and Xionggang suddenly turned their heads and looked at Tianying. "Li, we've all been fooled. Go find him. He may have sneaked into the depths of the Shilin Mountains. You must find him for me before he enters there." With a roar, the eagle recovered its body again in a twinkling of an eye. The wings were fierce, and there was a hurricane roaring between heaven and earth. With the roar of the heavenly eagle, in the mountains and forests below, countless low-level warcraft are trembling and crawling on the ground. Facing one of the 3 kings here, the anger of the heavenly eagle makes them like a cold cellar. Hearing the angry cry of the eagle, Yang Lion and Xionggang could not help but frown slightly. They immediately looked at each other. Their faces were full of doubt. After a few breaths, Yang Lion looked at the distant sky and asked loudly, "What's the matter? Didn't you go after the boy? What's the matter?" "I was deceived. The one I chased was fake. His real body must have left. If I guessed right, he must be in the mountains at the moment. From now on, all those who heard the king's orders will find me and find the human for me. He must not enter the hinterland of Shilin." Tianying's huge body hung high above the sky, and the voice of words made the world turbulent. The warcraft in the mountains below were even more shocked. It was not until after a good moment that Tianying vibrated its wings again and returned to the location of Yang Lion again. With the departure of Tianying, there are many warcraft running around in the mountains below. They dare not disobey the orders of Tianying. Seeing a gloomy sky eagle on his face, the burning lion couldn't help frowning slightly and turning his eyes slightly. Then he asked, "What's the matter? Did you really let that boy run away? If so, you and I will be in trouble." Alas! Hearing the speech, Tianying sighed deeply with a depressed face. He didn't know that he was only an avatar when he caught up. What made him more depressed was that the strength of the avatar was only 1 star weaker than his body. At last, his self-explosion made Tianying suffer a big loss, and it was for this reason that Tianying was so angry. "What can I do? That boy is by no means an ordinary person. Who knows what his real purpose of entering the hinterland of Xiao Mountain is this time? If he has evil intentions, I'm afraid not only you and me, but also Xiao Mountain will be destroyed this time. Seeing this, the burning lion reluctantly shrugged and couldn't find someone. Immediately, he thought of the North King who had fought with him. But when he turned to find it, he found that the North King had already fled here while they were distracted. Damn it! In a moment of carelessness, I forgot that guy. Think of the North King. The burning lion also feels dignified in his heart. In the battle with the latter, the power of the North King is not inferior to him. Moreover, even he can't break the terrible puppet body of the latter, which makes the burning lion, who is a warcraft, feel extremely shocked. The burning lion admits that, since his debut, up to now, the only thing he admires is Xiao, who is also a warcraft, whose defense is much better than him. But what the burning lion never expected is that today, a puppet has more terrible physical defense than Xiao. Coupled with his terrible power and strange thunder power, the burning lion will not doubt in his heart. If he talks about strength alone, I'm afraid Xiao is against him, and he can't get any benefit. He shrugged helplessly. Since the North King had left, it would not be of great significance to look for him now. Since Xiao Yangan pardoned him to leave, he was absolutely sure. It was impossible to look for him now. On the other side, Xiao Yang walked quickly through the mountains and forests. In order to avoid more trouble, he tried his best to restrain his breath and flew away to the depths of Xiao Mountains as fast as possible. Several warcraft animals encountered from time to time on the way were wiped out by Xiao Yang until the strength in Xiao Yang gradually dissipated, and Xiao Yang's breath became weak. However, until this time, Xiao Yang still had a long distance from the end of the territory of the three big guys. And this makes Xiao Yang dare not take it lightly. At this moment, if he can't do his best, I'm afraid what he has to face next is the crazy pursuit of countless warcraft. Once discovered by the three guys again, unless Jiu appears, Xiao Yang can only want to be forced to leave the Xiao Mountains. In the next period of time, in order not to be found by the three eagles, Xiao Yang is even hiding from those passing warcraft. However, only in this way can he relieve some unnecessary troubles for Xiao Yang. Otherwise, if he continues to drag on like this, it will not be a good thing for Xiao Yang. After all, even Xiao Yang in his heyday is not the opponent of the three, let alone now. Once he meets the three guys again, Xiao Yang is afraid it is difficult to get away. Whoosh dash. With a sharp wind-breaking sound, Xiao Yang can obviously feel that there is a person approaching rapidly behind him. However, Xiao Yang's mouth finally shows a smile. This latecomer is the North King. With Xiao Yang's state at the moment, only when Bei Wang is around, can he really feel at ease. At the same time, Xiao Yang took 2 imperial pills again and felt the fighting spirit gradually restored in his body. Xiao Yang's face improved. With the recovery of fighting spirit, Xiao Yang's forward speed also accelerated sharply. Finally, when the pill in his body was consumed again, a snow-capped peak standing in the depths of Xiao Mountains like a city wall appeared in Xiao Yang's line of sight at the end of Xiao Yang's line of sight. Deep in the Xiao Mountains, a row of tall snow-capped peaks, like a high wall, towering into the clouds, spread to the north and south until the end of sight. At the periphery of the snow peak, all the vitality disappeared. Within hundreds of feet around, the earth was covered with ice and snow, and the sky was shrouded in a thick white fog. The whole heaven and earth turned into a piece of white. The cold and penetrating chill was revealed in the air, which made it very difficult to breathe. At this moment, Xiao Yang is walking on the snow with doubts. Every step will make a creaking sound. In front of this scene, Xiao Yang is curious. Why is the world here different from the outside world? The world is cold. Xiao Yang has to release his own strange fire. Only in this way can Xiao Yang not feel uncomfortable. Approaching this snow-white world, Xiao Yang only felt that the light between heaven and earth had become slightly dim. With a flick of his fingers, several gorgeous different fires suddenly burst out, each suspended around Xiao Yang's body to illuminate heaven and earth for him. At the same time, the snow in front of him melted and exposed the cold rocks under the snow. Here is the hinterland of the Xiao Mountains. Unexpectedly, it should look like this. Xiao Yanmu was puzzled. Unexpectedly, this dead land is the hinterland of the Xiao Mountains, where everyone is most curious. I'm afraid no one will patronize such an ice and snow place. Thinking like this in his heart, Xiao Yang released his soul power and explored the snow area within 100 feet. Before he knew the real situation of this strange place, Xiao Yang didn't dare to make a conclusion. After all, who knows if there really exists any terrible warcraft in this strange place? Moreover, according to the so-called rules often mentioned by the three guys outside, looking at the Shaolin Mountains, they are not really the existence of the Overlord level. Therefore, although it seems lonely here at present, there may be a terrible warcraft at the level of Fighting Emperor in the depths of the Snow Mountain, and it is not necessarily that Xiao Yang is peeping at the moment. With this in mind, Xiao Yang suddenly felt vigilant. No matter where he went, all unknown things were the most terrible. At present, the hinterland of Shaolin Mountain Range is another more dangerous place for Xiao Yang. Jiyu Lao, what do you think of this place? On the way, Xiao Yang asked aloud to the bone in his body. Well, I did find something, but it's too early now. But I advise you to turn around and return. I'm afraid this is not the place you can enter for the time being. Hearing the speech, Jiyu nodded. The words in his mouth surprised Xiao Yang. They came all the way to Shaolin Mountain Range. Guyo didn't say anything against Xiao Yang, but at the moment, Guyo's words surprised Xiao Yang. Old Bone, what do you mean? Can you say that there are warcraft of Fighting Emperor level near here? The words fell, and the look on Xiao Yang's face became nervous. His heart moved. Bei Wangdun appeared aside and kept alert to the world around him. No, I don't mean this, but another thing. Even if there is no Fighting Emperor, maybe you can't overcome it. Jiyu shook her head and said. Huh. Xiao Yang frowned and wanted to ask again, but Jiyu stopped him with a sentence and said. Let's go first. When you get there, you will naturally understand. At that time, I'm afraid it's up to you if you don't want to return. When the voice fell, Guyo returned to silence again. No matter how Xiao Yang asked, he ignored it, and Xiao Yang couldn't help feeling a burst of doubt about it. Immediately, he was helpless to turn his mouth, move his steps, and continue to walk slowly towards the front. Xiao Yang walked for a long time along this road. When he looked up again, in addition to the fire above his head, the sky had become dark, and the temperature around heaven and earth had become colder and colder. Obviously, the rapidly passing time had reached the night again. Feeling the cold breath around him, Xiao Yang couldn't help but frown. The hinterland of Shaolin is really strange. The temperature here is several times lower than that in ordinary winter. Even his strange fire can't be completely immune to the cold. It can be seen how cold and terrible the temperature in the world is. Hoo. Until a certain moment, a cluster of strange fire not far in front of Xiao Yang was forcibly blown out by a cold wind. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang was shocked. Who could have thought that the most violent force in the world, strange fire, was forcibly blown out by a cold wind? The strange fire was extinguished, but the cold wind was unabated. It roared past and greeted Xiao Yang. Before the cold wind came, Xiao Yang had felt the terrible low temperature. In front of that terrible low temperature, if you were an ordinary semi-emperor, I'm afraid you would be completely frozen into ice inside and outside in a moment. With this in mind, the look on Xiao Yang's face suddenly became dignified. With a big mouth, the gorgeous strange fire suddenly burst out and turned into a terrible strange fire light column. With the terrible high temperature, he rushed hard at the oncoming cold wind. Hiss. This time, with Xiao Yang's personal display of different fire, is that power comparable to the flame just now? In the blink of an eye, he broke the cold wind to the depths, and broke the subsequent cold winds together. Only then did Xiao Yang release the different fire to wrap his whole body and walk firmly to the depths. This time, in the face of those cold winds, Xiao Yang's face didn't change at all. He let the cold wind blow on him, but this time there was a different fire ahead. Whenever there was a cold wind, he would be instantly destroyed by the different fire. From a distance, although it is covered by clouds and fog, it can still be vaguely seen. In this dark night, a slightly blurred fire moves forward rapidly in the dark night. From time to time, there will be a fire rising, which makes the world bright. After a long time, Xiao Yang, who had been walking non-stop, paused again. His face looked a little pale under the different fire, and even his breathing began to become difficult. While Xiao Yang stopped his steps, not far in front of him, there was a section of slope road paved with cold ice. A terrible cold wind was blowing out from the top of the road, like the roar of the nether world. The terrible cold wind was like a cold blade, with a sharp wind sound, attacking Xiao Yang hard. Seeing this, Xiao Yang's eyebrows couldn't help wringing. His palm suddenly shook. The dark black ruler suddenly appeared in the palm. The giant ruler waved hard with the swing of his arm, breaking the oncoming cold wind. Kaka. However, at the moment when the cold wind was broken, the huge foot in Xiao Yang's hand was quickly covered with a layer of solid cold ice. Ah! Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang was slightly surprised, but he didn't expect that the cold wind was getting stronger and stronger. Just a meeting, he frozen his Shen heavy ruler. Damn. The cold wind is so strange. If it goes on like this, I'm afraid I can't get through here. The palm holding the Shen heavy ruler exerted a slight force, and the gorgeous strange fire immediately lingered on. With the appearance of the strange fire, the thick solid ice on the Shen heavy ruler melted rapidly with the naked eye. At the same time, at the top of Napo Road opposite Xiao Yang, a terrible cold wind hit again. Damn it. With the experience just now, Xiao Yang didn't dare to be careless in his heart at the moment. His heart read a move. The fire covered the whole giant ruler. His arm waved fiercely, and a red horn blasted away at the oncoming cold wind. Bang! The cold wind answered. This time, in front of Xiao Yang, he was not invaded by the cold wind anymore. Xiao Yang was finally able to take a few steps forward. But then, the cold wind hit again. The cold wind seemed endless. He could come as much as Xiao Yang broke, and this also made Xiao Yang's face change slightly. If he really continues like this, he may not be able to see the real appearance of this hinterland, let alone cross here. Damn. You must force your way through here, or you'll have to stop here today. A thought flashed in his heart. Xiao Yang Meng took a deep breath, held his strength, and stepped forward quickly. At the same time, his palm tightly held the Shen heavy ruler, and there was a creaking sound between his knuckles. When the cold wind came, the giant ruler wrapped by different fire in Xiao Yang's hand was waved again to break the cold wind. Break it for me. Broken. Broken. With the roar of Xiao Yang's mouth spitting out again and again, the constant cold wind also declared to be broken again and again. However, getting closer to the top of the slope road, Xiao Yang felt more and more difficult. The strength of the cold wind seemed to be increasing. His strength was also increasing every time he bombarded. Finally, Xiao Yang even had to show his fighting skills to break the oncoming cold wind. Huh! Just after a few seconds' pause, when Xiao Yang was about to step forward again, he suddenly found that his ankles had been covered with cold ice. At the same time, Xiao Yang found that there was heavy snow between heaven and earth. Drink! Xiao Yang's body suddenly shook and forcibly shattered the cold ice covered under his feet. Xiao Yang's steps stepped forward again. The Shen heavy ruler in his hand kept waving, but the cold wind around him became stronger and stronger. Although Xiao Yang had tried his best, his forward speed became more and more slow. At this time, even if Xiao Yang has a different fire to protect himself, he still can't help feeling the terrible low temperature between heaven and earth, which makes his body cold. At the same time, he can't help feeling a cold in his heart. The strange temperature between heaven and earth surprised Xiao Yang, who was never afraid of water and ice. But the more so, Xiao Yang was more unwilling. He held the Xuanzhong ruler tightly with both hands, and ruthlessly inserted it into the ice at his feet. He was wrapped in different fire. He sat down hard against the Xuanzhong ruler, and the cold wind was blocked one by the heavy ruler body of the Xuanzhong ruler. He quickly took 2 imperial elixirs and felt the warm and moist feeling brought by the elixir when it was put into the body. Xiao Yang finally couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He didn't work very hard until the good film was engraved. He asked the bone you in the body, "Old bone, do you know what the hell it is?" "Well, I know something." The bottom of Xiao Yang's heart thought of Jiuyu's voice. The words were flat and there were no waves. Listening to Xiao Yang's ears, it made the latter have a bad hunch. "Can you please?" "No, it's up to you to solve this matter. I've advised you to return the same way as before, but you don't listen. Now this situation can be regarded as your own." Without giving Xiao Yang the slightest chance, Jiuyu retorted. "But you know, I have to go from here. There's no other way," Xiao Yang said in a deep voice. "That was before, but now, it's different. The time has not come. You can't leave here by your own strength unless you force me to do it." After some words fell, Xiao Yang was finally silent. Guyo had made it clear that he could not rely on Guyo's power anymore. Now he can only rely on himself. "Who? In that case, even if I fight to the end, I must have a look at what the hinterland of Shalin Mountain is." The unwilling cry in his heart fell, and Xiao Yang, who was leaning against the Shen heavy ruler, suddenly got up. At the same time, the palm wrapped by different fire held the giant ruler fiercely and pulled it out fiercely, and the solid ice covered behind the giant ruler immediately broke. "Drink. Break it for me." Xiao Yang held a huge ruler in his hand and was full of strange fire. He took a sudden step at his feet. He waved the giant ruler high above his head and immediately fell down. The magnificent ruler Orn looked particularly dazzling in the ice and snow. With a real destructive power, he destroyed all the oncoming cold wind with one blow. The figure moved, and Xiao Yang followed the Kaimang in front of him. Before the Kaimang dispersed, the figure had come to the top of the slope road, only a few tens of feet away from the top. Drink. 7 broken sky ruler. Break it for me. The cry fell, and 7 feet overlapped. The fighting spirit in the cyclone in Xiao Yang's body was also pulled away by nearly 1/3 in a moment, but the power of this foot-on was also strong and terrible. At the moment of shooting the magnificent Kai Mang, the terrible Yu Wei tore the solid ice in front of Xiao Yang, and the cracks expanded rapidly. The Kai Mang, with a terrible energy storm, destroyed all this slope, even the thick rocks under the cold ice. Boom! With the fall of this blow, the solid ice under Xiao Yang's feet was also broken. Not only that, but even the cold ice area where Xiao Yang is now suddenly and violently vibrated. Huh! Aware of this scene, Xiao Yang's heart suddenly coagulated slightly, his body moved, and quickly retreated towards the rear. At the same time, the ice world below quickly began to collapse. A moment later, the original slope road was no longer there. Instead, a huge deep stream, a cold wind more terrible than before, was rushing out from the source of the deep stream. Heaven and earth were turned pale at this moment. At the same time, the look on the faces of the 3 Tianying people in the depths of the Shalin Mountains also changed suddenly at this moment. Deep in the Shalin Mountains, the eagle stood above the sky. Below, the Yang lion quickly flew up and came to the eagle. What's going on? What happened? Before people arrived, the slightly solemn voice of words had come, shaking the void space. I'm not sure, but judging from what happened just now, I'm afraid it's not small, and 9 times out of 10 it may have been done by that human. Tianying frowned, and a pair of blue pupils shone a sharp light. Since Xiao Yang ran away, he has been completely serious about the stranger. Although the strength of the other side is not better than them, it is not much worse than them in terms of means and combat power. If they can't take it seriously, it is likely that they will capsize in the gutter. Look at this direction. It's the west. The boy should have come to the east wall. Let me have a look. Standing in the sky, Xionggang looked into the western sky. Because of the distance, he couldn't see anything clearly. Therefore, he said something to the 2 people around him. Xionggang closed his eyes and waved his hand. An earthy yellow light shot into the earth below and disappeared in a moment. Wang buzzing. As the strange light disappeared into the earth, all the movements under the earth appeared in Xiongang's mind. Under the earth, what kind of strange crystal medicinal materials containing energy were reflected in Xiongang's mind? Oh, this is... Hey, unexpectedly, has he touched the edge of the Earth Road? It seems that it won't be long before he can really control the Earth Road. The burning lion looked stunned, and the words in his mouth faintly spit out, but the Tianying continued with the latter's words. Smelling the speech, the flesh on the burning lion's face immediately couldn't help shaking. Unexpectedly, among the 3 of them, the first person to understand the power of the road would be this big fool. Unwilling to turn his mouth, the burning lion whispered in his heart and moved his eyes away from Xionggang. Skyhawk once again looked at the western sky. The energy riot just now made Skyhawk's heart a little uneasy. He just hoped that the result was not what he imagined. Otherwise, it would be a big trouble. After taking a deep breath, Tianying slowly took back his eyes. Before the bear woke up, he had to wait quietly here. The breeze blowing over the open sky eased the slightly depressed atmosphere in the field at the moment. The burning lion and the eagle looked at each other. They thought about something in their hearts, but they were silent in the end. Time passed slowly until a quarter of an hour later, Xionggang, who had closed his eyes, suddenly opened his eyes and looked up fiercely. A pair of earthy yellow eyes suddenly widened and looked at the western sky, showing surprise in his eyes. How? Possible? As Xionggang uttered his words, Tianying and Yangsha also quickly recovered, raised their eyes and hurriedly looked at Xionggang. The mood in Tianying's heart became more and more uneasy at this moment. What did you see? What the hell happened there? Although he had guessed in his heart, the burning lion couldn't help asking Xionggang. At the same time, Tianying also looked at Xionggang. A heart in his chest beat rapidly, and his mood became extremely nervous. Damn! It's the east wall. Something happened to the east wall. The voice fell, and the faces of Tianying and Yangsha also changed suddenly. They didn't want to ask any more questions, and their body turned suddenly. At the same time, the 3 turned into their own bodies and flew away quickly in the direction where Xiao Yang was now at the fastest speed. On the other side, Xiao Yang looked at the deep stream in front of him with great dignity, and his heart was full of horror. At this moment, in front of Xiao Yang, A deep stream nearly 100 feet wide is blowing out a terrible cold wind and airflow. The terrible low temperature makes everything around frozen in an instant. Xiao Yan can stabilize his body with the help of the power of different fire. The terrible wind pressure almost wants to blow Xiao Yang out, but Xiao Yang is unwilling to fly out with his heart. Relying on Tianju's step, he forcibly stays in the void. He is unwilling to retreat and can't enter. The deep stream is very long, reaching deep into the hinterland. From Xiao Yang's position at the moment, the deep stream is like a huge crack, which forcibly interrupts the tall peaks on both sides vertically. Under the deep stream, there was a glittering and translucent blue light like deep water. Under the reflection of ice crystals, it shone brightly below the whole deep stream for tens of feet. But at the moment, Xiao Yang didn't want to pay attention to the strange scenery of the deep stream. He just wanted to do his best to break through the strange deep stream. Although Tianjuabu is a human body method fighting skill, it may be due to Xiao Yang's lack of strength. Even though Xiao Yang tried his best, he couldn't reach the middle of the deep stream. Even with all kinds of powerful fighting skills, Xiao Yang was blocked in the end. Damn it! Looking at the strange fire armor gradually becoming weak under the strong cold wind, Xiao Yang couldn't help scolding. The black ruler was waved in Xiao Yang's hand. Xiao Yang constantly displayed his fighting skills, trying to resist the terrible cold current from the deep stream below. However, Xiao Yang tried his best, but he could not be the enemy of the cold wind. It was only a moment. The strange fire at Xiao Yang's legs and feet was forcibly dispersed by the cold wind, exposing Xiao Yang's soul. In a moment, the terrible cold wind attacked and frozen Xiao Yang's legs. Damn it! Get out of here! Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's heart suddenly became angry and shouted angrily. His body shook violently, and the solid ice wrapped around Xiao Yang's lower leg suddenly burst. At the same time, Xiao Yang clenched his fists. In the dark pupil, different fire flowed, and the purple-golden light flickered slightly. Immediately, all the dragon phoenix blood vessels in Xiao Yang's blood vessels were stimulated at this moment. Roar! The earth-shaking roar suddenly came out. The world was shocked. A violent force swept out of Xiao Yang's body at this moment, breaking the cold wind that was constantly invading Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang's eyes shone with sharp golden light, and his whole body was covered with dragon scales. The terror defense of the dragon phoenix ancient armor was fully exposed at the moment. In addition, with the protection of different fire, those cold winds could not be close to Xiao Yang's body for a week. With the help of the dragon phoenix blood stimulated in his body at the moment, Xiao Yang immediately felt that the cold wind blowing on him was much weaker. With a cold hum, he took a few steps forward, stepped on the cold wind and came to the center of the deep stream. This video will end here.